Hi there, and welcome back to another video from the BrickShed. For those of you who are new around here, my name's Noah. I run the BrickShed over in Australia with my friend Harrison. For 6 years, we've been running this business as a 50-50 partnership, and for over a year, I've been lucky enough to call this my full-time job. It is my dream job, and I wouldn't want to do anything else. So we sell Lego online. Everything from individual parts to full sets and minifigures. We sell on platforms like BrickLink, BrickOwl, and eBay. We're hoping to transform into a new Shopify store in the next couple of weeks, but that's still down the line. Over the years, we have grown into one of the largest BrickLink stores in Australia, and this channel is where I share the behind the scenes of what it's like running a Lego business full-time. If you have been following this channel for a while, you probably noticed that I disappeared 3 months ago for a few weeks. And that's not really like me. I'm usually uploading pretty consistently. At least I try to. Now today, I want to explain why. There has been a massive change in the business. My business partner Harrison has officially left the BrickShed. I've bought out his share and now I'm the sole owner of this business. This has been one of the biggest steps of my life so far, and it's honestly changed the direction of the store completely. So in this video, I'm going to take you through the entire story. The stress, the behind the scenes, even a trip to Perth that made it all happen. And then I'll share what it means for the future of the BrickShed. So Harrison and I have been running the BrickShed for a few years now, and for a while there, it worked so well. I had a really big knowledge of Lego. He had more knowledge than I did in the business side of the world. And we kind of came together, we formed this amazing partnership, and we complemented each other fantastically. It worked really well, and we built up this thing that, I could never have dreamed of it being this big. But about 1.5 years ago, I started to feel a pull to build the BrickShed into something that didn't quite align with Harrison's vision and was kind of a bit further out than what our business plan currently consisted of. I wanted to expand. New shelving, a bigger space, maybe even a storefront down the line. But at the time, I couldn't do that with a 50-50 partner. If one of us was really keen to push and the other was a bit more laid back and happy with maintaining the store, it made decisions a lot harder. So a bit over 1 year ago, I first proposed Harrison with an idea of buying out a portion of his share. I suggested an 80-20 split rather than our usual 50-50. And Harrison was on board. But we weren't ready to undertake that kind of project straight away. So we put it on the back burner and we continued business as usual. But honestly, as time went by, our work split changed. I was working closer to 80% of the time, Harrison was working 20% of the time, and we both knew it. So a few months passed and we were at a business meeting. We were talking all things the BrickShed. It was one of those business meetings where you just lay everything out on the table. Nothing was off limits. We were talking about where the BrickShed was going, where it was, but more importantly, where we both wanted to be individually. And a lot of stuff came out in that conversation that was really valuable into, how I wanted to run the BrickShed and how Harrison wanted to run the BrickShed. By the end of the conversation, we were probably sitting there for close to 6 hours, and Harrison asked me a question that hit me in a way that I didn't think it was going to. And it was a really simple question. It was there anything else you wanted to talk about? And it hit me that there was. The way things were going was not how I wanted them to be. They didn't align with my vision of the BrickShed. So I just blurted out. It just came right out. What if I bought you out completely? Holy crap. What did I just say? Never in a million years did I think I would ever have brought that up with Harrison. Never did I think that the BrickShed would be run without him. For 5-6 years, me and him were a team. And I didn't think that I could run the BrickShed at all without him. But something in that moment came over me and I realized that the logical step was a full buyout. This partial buyout that we'd been discussing for over a year that we were leading up to, and that's kind of how we were running the business. We were moving towards that 80-20 split. I was already working 80% of the time, Harrison was working 20%, and the only thing we were really waiting on was for me to have the funds to be able to purchase that rest of the share out of Harrison's pocket. Now, I never thought that I would be running the BrickShed by myself, and that was never the plan, even from when I first started and I brought Harrison on. So it was really scary to say that, but Harrison was amazing. And his first thing that he said was he was open to it, and he was open to a discussion. So that kicked off probably the most busiest, most stressful time of my life. 3 to 4 weeks it was of meetings with lawyers and accountants and some hardcore negotiating between me and Harrison. We started that conversation that night. We talked about some preliminary numbers, but we went our separate ways to do our own personal research. For me, I can only let you know what my experience was like, and it was really stressful and scary at some times. Honestly, I think that while I was going through that process, the thought crossed my mind more than once to just shut it all down, close the shop, and leave the BrickShed. It was that bad for me. Harrison and I had been friends for 5 years, and this really threw a rock into it. We kind of had to find ourselves again. There was some phone calls that we had across those 3 to 4 weeks of negotiating, and some of them weren't the most, dare I say, productive calls. It was really stressful, it was really scary, and I wasn't sure if I was going to make it out the other side. Luckily, I did. So, meetings with lawyers, meetings with accountants, and all this time with my mind preoccupied with this whole process, the BrickShed took a hit. Sales plummeted because I wasn't uploading any stock. I made sure orders got out, and I was managing the contractors to get that done. But personally, I wasn't here most of the time. The only time that I was here was when I was doing the inventory check. So I did a massive inventory of everything and a big audit. Now that didn't look like me going through each drawer, but I did go through all the sets and most of the figures to double check that they were all there. But the biggest thing I did was I counted every single box, every single shelf, practically every single pen. All the scissors, all the stationery, anything that the BrickShed owned, I put onto a spreadsheet. I put a value to it because I needed to figure out how much the business was worth. As obviously, with this buyout, that's what I needed to work out. Now, I'm not going to be sharing exact numbers here, but let me just tell you that the final number at the end of the day was a big one. So we went through this process, the BrickShed took a hit. I even stepped away from YouTube, and you guys would have noticed that. I was uploading consistently, and then I just disappeared. And it was just because at that time in my life, I just could not deal with anything but this project. So those weeks passed, and then we had a trip to Perth, which you would have seen on YouTube. And I definitely hinted at some big things that were coming and that were changing. And actually a couple of you guessed correctly what that thing was, which was the buyout. Some of you thought we were doing stuff with Richie, which I can definitely see how that might have come across, being that I was in Perth. We'd booked these flights prior to even discussing a buyout. I was flying up there a day early. Harrison flew up the next day, and I was pretty nervous. We hadn't finalized anything. Nothing was agreed upon, and we were still in the mid of the negotiations. And at the time, we had just, had a few phone calls that weren't the most pleasant ones. So it was a bit awkward, but it was still fun nonetheless. Amazing to meet Richie, and amazing to be up there and kind of take a step back from all of this stuff and be able to relax a bit. One of the last nights, Harrison and I had a small meeting by ourselves. We sat down, we were playing some cards, and we hashed the rest of it out. We put it all on the table again, and I made my final offer, and he accepted. We shook hands, and we kept playing cards. That meant that the flight home together was a lot easier. So then it was just a matter of drafting up a document and getting it signed. So about a week or two after coming back from Perth, We had a document. I went up to Melbourne to go see him. We got the papers down, we signed them, we shook hands, and officially from July 19th, 2025, I am the sole owner of the BrickShed. Harrison has officially left. So for about a month now, I've been running this as my own. It hasn't changed a whole lot because really for the past year, I have been running it the way I wanted to run it, except just being held back with some of those big decisions that I needed Harrison's approval on. But all the day-to-day stuff was always in my control, and that stuff will continue. But now I can really plan some of those big picture stuff without Harrison in the picture anymore. So I've got some big plans and a lot more that I want to talk to you more about in the future. The biggest change that has happened since the 19th of July is the transition from a partnership, 50-50 with Harrison, all the way over to a company where I am the sole director. A massive milestone for me personally, as it's been a goal of mine to start a company. So we are officially the BrickShed Proprietary Limited, which is amazing. I think it's actually the BrickShed Australia, but awesome to see. So I'm really pleased with myself for going through this process, and I've learned a lot through it. But I won't pass up how hard and stressful it was. So what does this really mean for the future of the BrickShed? Well, in short terms, it means that we can really grow now. We can put all of our energy into expanding the BrickShed into what I envision it to be, which is something a lot bigger than this. Focusing on getting out of the shed is probably my number one priority now. Expanding out of here into a warehouse, storefront, and other areas has always been a dream and is now really possible with me taking over the BrickShed, taking on the reins, and pushing us forward. Prior to this, expansion looked like adding more items, building our inventory count, and expanding over to eBay. Now it's going to look a little different. Getting out of here, finding a new business partner or partners, building our team, and growing outwardly, not just up, is the plan. I really look forward to bringing you along for the journey. That's going to be an amazing part. Sharing it with you has been amazing over this past year, and I intend to do it for some time. So now I want to hear from you guys. What are some of your questions? What do you want to know? Do you have any ideas of where the BrickShed could go? Wow, that rhymed. But yeah, do you have any questions about what this process looked like? Because I'm not sure if I answered everything here. Of course, I'm not going to tell you how much I'm paying him, and I'm not going to talk that exact number, but pretty much everything else is on the table. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, so please leave comments down below. The other thing I would like to hear from you is, where do you see the BrickShed going? I want your feedback, whether it's for the social media side of things and what you want to see on YouTube, but more importantly, what I want to know is, do you have any visions for what the BrickShed could be? Of course, I've got the grand plans of moving into a warehouse and going into becoming a storefront and maybe bringing on some other business partners and definitely expanding the team. But I'm sure there are other ideas out there. Not that I want to steal them, but I'm really interested to hear what the fans of the channel have to say. So please leave your comments down below and smash them at all. You know, get all your comments out there. Leave 5 if you want to, and I'll answer all of them, I promise. So this has been fun. I really hope that you've kind of picked something up here and you've learned something. This has been a big video and a difficult one to make because it's been an emotional roller coaster, really. And I'm glad that I was able to share it with you guys. Obviously, it's taken a month for me to actually announce this, and that's just because I've been managing the BrickShed by myself, and I set up that company and a whole other bunch of things. So that's that. Please like if you enjoyed this video. A new vlog will be out soon. This is just that special kind of announcement type video and a bit of a story of how this process ended up being how it was. If you're new here, hopefully I earned to subscribe after this video. But most importantly, I'll see you all in the next video. Please leave a comment, please like, please subscribe. I'm gonna leave it there. You guys have a good day, and I'll see you all in the next one.